my dad's constant refrain. Just give people a little breathing room. A little breathing room.
Now everybody, extra $600 stimulus checks are going to some Americans very soon. Welcome back to the channel. This is your fourth stimulus check update and daily news report. Now workers in select industries could be eligible for additional stimulus checks of up to $600. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently announced $700 million in grant funding, and that's available through new Farm and Food Workers Relief Program. And the bulk of the money, some $680 million, will go to help farm workers and meat packers to help cover crisis-related health and safety costs. Those costs can include things like personal protective equipment, childcare, and other expenses.
We talk about price tags. It is zero price tag on the debt. We're going to pay for everything we spend. So it's not, people, understandably, well, it started off at 6 trillion, now it's 3.5 trillion, now is it going to be 2.9? It's going to be zero.
So there are some Americans in certain industries that are receiving state stimulus checks and federal stimulus relief. Now, do you think that President Biden should send out a national fourth stimulus check for all Americans? And do you believe that he will get the job done? Tell me what you think in the comments. So additionally, some $20 million in grant funding has already been set aside for grocery store workers. Unlike the previous round of stimulus that involved direct payments, this specific stimulus check will be administered through grants to state and nonprofit assistance agencies. Agencies will apply for the grants this fall and must demonstrate the capability to distribute stimulus checks of up to $600 to eligible workers. And once the grants are made, it will be up to agencies to distribute the funds.
I think the part of what has to happen here as well, for example, let's talk about my economic plan. The economic plan, you all are always, and understandably, legitimately, citing polls. Every element of my economic plan is overwhelmingly popular. Overwhelmingly popular. But the problem is, with everything happening, not everybody knows what's in that plan.
The method for distribution of qualifications has not been announced yet. Starting October 1st, California's eviction moratorium will be cut to an end. And to avoid being evicted, renters who have been financially affected by the crisis must pay a portion of their back rent, and they can apply for rent relief through state or local programs. And the agency understands that between 800,000 and 1.5 million households in the state were financially burdened by the crisis, and they have lost income because their hours were reduced. Now, California has been slow to distribute rent relief. Advocates advise people not only to apply for rent relief, but also to seek legal aid if they're facing eviction. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Americans are still going through the crisis, and many Americans are out of work. So do you believe it is right for California to end the eviction moratorium? Tell me what you think in the comments below. And after 8 days of delay, some families said they finally began seeing money for the September 15th payment of the child tax credit. But not everyone got their money on Friday. The new enhanced child tax credit payment may help parents continue working. Nearly 94% of parents said they plan to continue working.
Really important and productive meeting. We congratulate the president on stepping in to make sure that we are all working on delivering the entirety of his agenda to his desk. And I think that's what he wanted as well. We have been very clear from the time that he laid out the Build Back Better agenda to Congress.
According to a survey, only 6.4% of respondents said they used the credit to either work less or change jobs. And those that did were more likely to have young children or a partner at home. To that point, some 11.2% of parents with infants or toddlers said the credit would change their work status, and roughly 20% of those who said they used the credit stay home and live with a spouse. Now, of course, there's currently a debate over the future of the credit and whether it should be tied to work. While most Democrats want to expand the child tax credit payment, Joe Manchin has argued that work must be required in order to get the benefit. Now, increasing requirements on aid programs would keep the poorest children from getting help. Beyond supporting families at work, the credit will also potentially help level the playing field for children in low and moderate income households. Some families said that they intended to use the money to pay for essentials, save and pay for some extracurricular activities.
And again, I'll just conclude by saying this is a process. And it's going to be up and down. That's why I don't look at the polls. Not a joke. Because it's going to go up and it's going to go down, it's going to go up. And hopefully at the end of the day, I'll be able to deliver on what I said I would do. One, bringing the country together on a few and very important things like on infrastructure, getting us in a position where we can have some coherent policy relative to foreign policy where there's agreement, moving us in a position where we're able to actually generate the kind of change in the dynamic of how we grow the economy. Not eliminate the super wealthy, not at all, but allow the working class and the middle class to be able to build out and up. And that can be done. And like I said, every time I hear, and I drive my staff crazy, every time I hear this is going to cost A, B, C, or D, the truth is, based on the commitment that I made, it's going to cost nothing because we're going to raise the revenue to pay for the things we're talking about. And we're going to give, and right now, if you take a look at the reconciliation piece, $1 trillion of that is tax cuts. Not raising anybody's taxes, it's tax cuts. People can be paying less taxes, but the people paying less taxes are going to be working class folks. It's going to put women back to work. It's going to put people in situations where they have, as I know you're tired of hearing me saying, but I'll never.
I was here in Nevada, not here, but I was 4 years ago running all over your state, talking to people. And 4 years ago, the ideas that I introduced into the political debate at that point were seen by the establishment media, by the establishment political class as radical and extreme ideas. Some of you may remember that. All right, people said, nobody, Bernie's a nice guy or he's not a nice guy, but his ideas don't make sense to anybody. Now, 4 years ago, I want you to remember the ideas that I talked about, which were seen to be crazy and radical. I said that if you work 40 hours a week, you should not live in poverty. We should raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Remember that? Well, 4 years ago, that was a radical idea. Well, guess what's happened since? 7 states have passed legislation raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and the U.S. Congress will likely do the same within the next couple of months. 4 years ago, I said that we have a crumbling infrastructure, that is our roads and our bridges and our wastewater systems and our water systems. We should invest $1 trillion and create 15 million decent paying jobs. And people said, $1 trillion, that's so much money. That's what everybody is talking about now, and that is exactly what we have got to do. This is America. Our roads and our bridges should not be collapsing. Now, 4 years ago, I said that, maybe 50, 60 years ago, if you graduated high school.
The House Democrats are now ready for the reconciliation package to be set on the floor for a vote.